Resident Evil 4.
Hello there, Sarah from 17 once again. This is my Resident Evil 4 professional, no damage run. And this is the final 2 videos of this entire run. There's this one, and then there's the last boss one. And at this point, after the hellish experience that was that previous section, we're pretty much home free. Because everything that's left is situations that you've covered before, just in a different ensemble. Most notably, we have one of the biggest gunfights coming up because there's a shit ton of enemies, but it's kind of segmented between opening doors, pressing buttons, and things like that. So it's not as intense as the village was. It's a little bit more dangerous because some of them have range, but aside from that, we're going to be using a lot of the strategies you've already seen to do a lot of the things you've already seen. So it's the home stretch, it's the final run, and it's going pretty well. As it stands, we don't have to worry about ammo anymore, because there's no real specific use for any of it at this point. It's just reactional at best. As long as we've got a rocket launcher, it'll make Sadler quicker than he needs to be. And even then, Sadler, I wish he was a little swifter, but it's just one of those things where he's got a shit ton of life, so he takes a big old beating. But I never truly understood what this part of the game was. Because you're on this island. This island obviously has some kind of links to these ruins. Maybe it's the original dig site for where the parasite came from, the La Plagas. On top of this temple, you know, from Dusk Till Dawn-esque with the titty twister bar. But every so often you just come to areas where it mixes up the geometry for no other reason than to do so. And because I'm not too familiar with these areas, you'll notice I'm looking up a lot, I'm looking around myself. But if you look at this place, it looks like something out of Fist of the North Star or you know, Mad Max. God Hand is probably a good example, even though at this point, God Hand doesn't exist. So technically, God Hand looks a little bit like this. But you can immediately hear the music. The music tells us there's a regenerator somewhere. And I believe on this sequence there's 2. Or to my memory there was 2. But I don't end up killing 2, and it confuses me, so I'm not too sure what that's about. That's one of those weird moments where you open a bin and random bag starts coming to life. Always good. Couple of quick herbs. There's literally this corridor, then a massive firefight, then a hub, a couple other rooms to get the parasite out, and then the boss. It's the 11th hour, but we still have this to contend with as I run around lackadaisically, because I remember this place. There's certain parts of this game that I remember more than others, and this is one of those that shines in my memory because it's got regenerators in it, and I must have died or got surprised and it just embedded itself like memories tend to do with the way they imprint. But I'm checking the cells, picking up some needed bullets, and I believe it's in one of the cells. Is it this one? It's this one. There it is. So luckily enough, they telegraph themselves by their asthmatic nature, or whatever the hell's wrong with them. They make those funny noises. And then they're not too quick, but they do have the ability to dalsimia, so you need to be aware of that. But as soon as you get him down like this, as long as you keep him down in this stun lock flinching, he cannot recover, he cannot get back up. The only thing that will stop this from happening is bad positioning and bad hit detection, and both of those can sometimes come into play, so just be aware of it. But I think the reason that this works is not only because of the stun animation, but because the parasites inside of its body are spread around its body. And the way that the game wants you to try and kill them is to isolate where the parasites are and then divide and conquer them. Which is easy to say, but without the thermal, there's no real way to distinguish. And it seems like a very specific thing to limit your playstyle around the thermal scope. But luckily enough, the knife tactic is pretty brutal, and it works with ruthless efficiency. But there he goes. And so too will this run go. The only thing left on the channel at this moment in time is an unfinished Portal 2 guide, which will be finished. It's just going to take a hilarious amount of time because it's so difficult to do that project. It's they're hour-long videos, I have no context for them at all, and talking for an hour, regardless of who you are or how good you are at it, is still really difficult to do. And it's also very difficult to make it sound like you give a shit for that amount of time. And a lot of people don't realise that, because there's a difference between being fake on a commentary and trying to keep it energetic. And it's difficult. It can be really challenging, and that's one of the reasons why I prefer smaller videos to longer ones, because it allows me to not get bored at what I'm doing and not wish that the video was ending. And as much as the shorter videos save my throat, they save my bandwidth, they also save your sanity. And a project like this is kind of exclusionary to it. You'll notice that these are 20 to 25 minute videos, some of them 15, which is pretty much the higher end echelon of duration for my channel. But that's just because these videos flow, because there's a lot to speak about. Similar with the Bayonetta ones. The Onimusha one was a good one as well, because I had some stuff to talk about. But not all guides do, because not all guides, unfortunately, are created equally. But here, once you get rid of the archers, this becomes what you've been doing for the full game. Kneecap them, finish them with the knife, situational awareness, and just bear in mind you can always back up here, and if you hit that door behind you, not only will you checkpoint, but you'll reset the enemy positions. And I end up making a mistake here, which is going to be probably quite easy to see. And what it involves is, I kill the black guy, I forget his name, the Mr. T dude, and I don't pick up his money. Instead, I run all the way back and hit the door to get the checkpoint. And it turns out that it despawns his drop, so don't do that. And obviously, at this point, if you need gold, you might be in a bad spot, because you've killed so many enemies and there's really not that many left. But the only problem here is how long it takes the enemies to get to you. You'll find that the runners are very quick, but the people like the black guy, Mr. T, he takes his time. And he takes his time for no other reason than I think it's a balance thing. They've slowed him down because he has a gun. And when he turns up, he's got a really dodgy name too. Oh wow. So the Magnum here, once again proving that it's a very viable and powerful weapon. Depending on where you hit that dude will depend on how many times you have to shoot him. A couple of Magnum rounds is usually enough to put him down. And then there's just this massive encounter here, which is tricky because there's a ton of dudes, and every so often there's people with crossbows, and if you don't know where they are, they can catch you off guard. Things like this. That is a bad situation to be in. And luckily enough, there was an animation to hide behind, but that could have gone really badly. And as you just saw, he nearly hit me then. So you need to be insanely careful, but there's plenty of barrels to help you out. If you've got your volume on, which you probably should with this game, you can hear a lot of the attacks telegraphed. You can hear the whip, the whistle whip of the axes, they arc towards you. You can hear people talking as they go to smack you, but you're not there anymore, and you will obviously hear the crossbow bolts twanging. But luckily enough, up here where the button is, there's a ladder, and it's one of those ladders, like every other ladder in the game, where we can exploit it to put people down. And on this one in particular, because they have crossbows, I'm going to stand on this side instead of on the other side knifing. Because I'm hoping to get them grouped at the bottom so I can throw grenades. Because I know at this point, I have no more need for grenades. I have a whole bunch of them, and I don't really use grenades against Sadler. I use the scaffolding and some of the explosives that the game provides you. And then, obviously, of course, I finish him off with the rocket launcher. But you can hear them firing, which is a little bit nerve-wracking. But luckily enough, they're trying to shoot me through a fence, and oh, he can! As if. Resident Evil 4, ladies and gentlemen. That is incredibly strange that it lets him do that, but there you go. Now he's been killed. Before I go up there and mess all this up, I'm going to run back to the door. I'm going to hit the door. I'm going to get clipping on the pallets. But there's the checkpoint. Spin around, get yourself back through. And then once again, we can push forward and see what we have. So this does two things. It resets enemy positions, or it seems to at least, and of course it gives you a checkpoint. And for some reason that drop didn't disappear, which is strange. Because the big guy did, which really bugged me. But there's a red herb. Climb the ladder. And what happens here is I think you press the button on the other place and some guy comes over here and turns it off. So you have to come here to power it back up or something along the lines of that. It's this specific A to B to C kind of puzzle. But I'm going to have to put some red and green herbs together to get some space in my cluttered inventory. And yeah, I played the entire game without stock, which, to a lot of people's chagrin. I don't know why I did that. I just obviously didn't notice. Stock would have helped as well for some of the longer range shots. Would have helped with the way that he aims it. Would have helped in a few situations, but I suppose this video proves you don't need it should you not be able to afford it or fit it in your box. Is this going to be a snake? No, it's gold. I always think you can open cupboards, and you can. Awesome. In a lot of games you can't do stuff like that. It seems bizarre that they would have these functionalities in older games, but newer games just don't really care for them. Like, the thing I really like about the Wonderful 101 is there are these unscripted areas where if you mess around and do specific things, you can access little secrets. Like, you'll see a button on the ground that's disguised, and you'll hit it with the hammer unite, and it'll give you something. Or you'll see an opening that's just part of the background, and you can send your people inside, and they'll give you something. Or you draw the wonder line around it the same way you recruit people, and something happens. It's the little touches that make the gameplay even better than it is, because it just differentiates it. And as you can see, I'm a little bit confused as to what I'm supposed to do with this. And I need to press this, and I think... There we go. You press that, it activates both the buttons, but I think it spawns enemies. Because I remember getting hit by a dude as I came to press this button. He just stood there chilling with a stun rod. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I've killed them all. I might have tried to rush this sequence when I was playing it. But suffice it to say, it's... This area looks a hell of a lot more intimidating than it is. And I would go as far to say that you have done considerably more challenging, you know, gauntlet fights of enemies. It's just this one looks scary, while the other ones didn't really look that scary, but were much more challenging. And then there's these two fellas. So you can use your grenade should you choose to, free up some inventory space, or you can put the good old trusty striker on and introduce them to the concept of buckshot and put them down. And at this point, once again, don't need the shotgun, don't need to be frugal with my ammunition. I can just go balls to the walls here, because it's not something we're going to be needing too much if I do this correctly. But there's some shotgun ammo just in case. And I do love these upgrades that allow you to get rid of all that clutter in your inventory with the ammunition. The TMP, the shotgun, when you have those upgrades, they give you so much ammo capacity, it's brilliant. But there we are. Once we're in here, after the cutscene, I believe we've taken the La Plagas out of ourselves. And then there's just this room here, which is kind of the calm before the calm. Because I always think that after this room it's the boss, but it's not. It's the typewriter next to that crazy looking, is it like an oil platform or something daft? I don't know what it is. I think it might be a landing pad that you fight Sadler on. I guess I've never really contemplated why there would be a massive crane and all the other stuff that's on it. But there's the last shop of the game. There is something more for you to read if that's your thing. Which, I always recommend reading the stuff that games provide on your first playthrough. Because once you've done that, not only are you enlightened and you know a little bit more about the game, but then you never have to do it ever again. So you can just get straight to the gameplay. And you'll notice there, between my inventory, what you just saw, and the inventory before, that when I was at the shop, I managed to sell a lot of things and clean things up a little bit. Still not to the degree of some people would like, but I got a rocket launcher, and I got rid of a lot of my healing items, because, you know, what is the point? And the only thing left now is a shit ton of flash grenades, which, why not? It's cool, because when I first played this game, before I realised you could kill the parasites with them, I just thought the flash grenades were a stun weapon. They were something to help you run past things. And I never used them for that purpose. I just kind of didn't use them, because when I used to play Resident Evil, I was a person who didn't run past things, which, especially in the earlier games, running past stuff is the best way to play. And an uploader by the name of Darkside Phil started playing Resident Evil 2, which is a Resident Evil I beat a very long time ago but don't really remember too much. And I remember on that game, running past enemies is almost a must. So, to my enjoyment, when he started shooting everything at the beginning, it tells you straight away that it's probably going to be a very fun, if not frustrating for the people who are good at that game, kind of playthrough. But, that's the thing that I watch that channel for, 'cause it amuses me to no end. But thank you very much for watching. Final video coming up, and then we can put to bed the majesty that is Resident Evil 4. So thank you, and you take care now.